Pues muchas gracias, Jorge. Muy interesante plática. Yo los estaba viendo ustedes y todos estaban tomando fotos, lo cual garantiza que la información ofrecida por Jorge ha sido de gran interés. Y bueno, continuando con el programa del día de hoy, es un gusto para mí presentar a un ejecutivo de Fujitsu. Él vive en Detroit, en los Estados Unidos, y se encarga de su puesto, en inglés es Global Technology Officer. Es un gusto para mí presentar a Sreedhar Kajeepeta. Por favor, Sreedhar, please join us. How are you? Good. Please be my guest.
Digital technology touches all of our lives. With artificial intelligence, this technology can create new insights and possibilities for change. At Fujitsu, we bring together customers and partners from different industries and combine them with digital technology and expertise to create new value and opportunities. We call it digital co-creation. Improving lives, making business more innovative, and delivering a brighter future for all. See what digital co-creation could do for you.
Morning. So it's my privilege today to be with you and to talk about what digital means to our customers, large enterprises across the world, and also how Fujitsu is bringing best practices to de-risk and accelerate these transformation projects. But before we do that, I wanted to once again emphasize on the word digital. You know, it's much hyped, in some cases much abused. So I wanted to spend some time getting down to the business rationale behind digital. And also, while I'm doing that, I want to make sure that I relate it to a lot of real-life enterprise transformative exercises that we have been part of, so that you can relate to how companies are really trying to embrace rather than run away from this much hyped phenomenon that we see out there. So before we get started, let's start with a question. Do you really think that your sector, I'm sure in the room today, we have many vertical industries represented. Do you really feel that in the next 5 years, there is a huge impact from digital disruption on your business? I've listed some answers here. There are a lot of valid answers, but there is one wrong answer, which is the last one. So we can be a business of relevance in this day and age and still think that you are somehow in a safe haven or in a protected zone from this phenomenon called digital. So let's back that up with some observations from market analysts. So there's a lot of data here. I just want to highlight on some of the keywords. Digital is all about empowering the business with a new set of services to create new streams of revenue and to move or help the business move at the speed that it needs to, rather than at the speed of IT, which is what we've been used to for the last 60 years. You know, there are two terms that I'm sure you've heard often: systems of record, systems of engagement. So to this date, since IT started, let's say in 1960, we have been making do with systems of record. They help us to run the business. They are needed. but they don't help us grow the business. And thanks to all the revolution that we've seen in technology, right, with mobile devices, IoT, and everything, we now have the smarts to create systems of engagement and let the two entities, systems of record and systems of engagement, collaborate with each other for us to grow the business. So that's really what digital is all about. And if you see this chart, we are already in, between the third and fourth waves of digital. And I'll tell you some of my personal examples as to how we have been helping companies, in this part of the digital revolution. So make no mistake that digital is very relevant in 2018. And the other aspect of the statistic here is by 2020, no matter what vertical industry you're part of, 47% of your revenue is going to be impacted by digital transformation. In other words, if you're taking it easy, you can kiss 47% of your revenue goodbye by 2020. So it's kind of a wake-up call for us to really embrace digital. Some more statistics from a purely IT perspective. Gartner feels that digital transformation from an IT standpoint is growing at 7.5%, from 150 billion in 2015 to 201 billion in 2019, from an IT spend point of view. Likewise, Forrester says that it will be 178 billion in 2018 from 146 billion in 2017. Most of it is going towards what I would call creating services out of your existing systems. So in 2018, as we said, we really want to focus on digital being a business imperative. Now, a lot of times people think that digital is about technology, about solutions. It is all about outcomes, and here are examples of outcomes. So I'll just focus on, there's a lot of data here, I'll just focus on a couple of items. So if you're in the retail business, right, I'm sure you all heard of the term BOPUS, buy online, pick up in store. It is said that companies that implemented BOPUS actually have a lift of 27% in their in-store sales. Why? Because if you ordered a suit and you went to the store to pick it up, using digital technology in the store, they incent you to buy a tie to go with it, a pair of shoes to go with it. So the point here is, by focusing on outcomes, what do I want to do with my digital transformation, and what are the new benefits that the business is going to get, and coming up with a strategy that is both on the offense as well as on the defense. Some businesses are going digital because they want to be on the offense, and some are going because they want to be on the defense. And things here are about cost efficiencies and things like that. And everything is fine game. You just need to know what set of outcomes would constitute your digital transformation program. You can call them KPIs, you can call them measurable goals, but you need to really measure them, and you need to measure them at a high speed, because the competition is doing that if you're. So here is, to understand the dynamics of digital, here is something that I always share with my audience. This famous curve was proposed by Chris Anderson back in 2001 when e-commerce was becoming very popular. It's called the long tail. So if you look at this and look at two entities as examples, the disruptor, in this case Amazon, and the established player, in this case Walmart, it's all about land grab that is covered by this curve. This curve shows the number of occurrences of a transaction versus the value of the transaction, the unit price and the volume. So we all forgot that in 1994, when Amazon started, they were selling books and they were selling DVDs, $8, $10, $13. But they were focusing on the volume. So low unit price, lot of volume. No one thought that they had their eyes set on approaching this end of the curve where it is big unit prices and established players can play that game. Now, if you look at Walmart, they acquired Jet.com. Why? Because without the advantage of an e-commerce outlet, they are losing all this yellow part of the revenue. And what has Amazon done lately? They acquired Whole Foods. And that's just the beginning. So the point that I'm making here is digital is not just for the disruptors and it's not just for the established players. It's for both. And it's how you come up with a strategy to expand and conquer this world covered by this curve, which is the long tail. Now, that has big implications on IT. Obviously, I'm speaking from a technology standpoint. So if you look at companies that don't want to change from a digitalized IT perspective, they would be limited in terms of their services. Their business would be supported only 8 to 5. They might have virtual machines, that's all, and systems would be very rigid. But if you really believed in digitalizing your IT, you would have APIs, application programming interfaces, to expose your business to handhelds, to do business round the clock, and to provide IT as a service so people can use IT as needed versus having boxes and boxes of servers in your data center. And you would have a business that is elastic, as elastic as Amazon. So that's really the whole crux of why companies are embracing digital and how they're doing it. With what is happening in the digital world, the line between bricks and clicks is blurring. In fact, I don't know how many of you attended NRF recently. One of the mantras at NRF was, brick is the new black. It is to say to the likes of Walmart, to the likes of Macy's, that just because you're an established brick and mortar company doesn't mean that you can be profitable. The black part refers to profitability, otherwise you are in the red. So brick is, by extending your company to be more digital, you can actually be profitable and not worry about, oh, Amazon is going to kill me. So that is, and if you can do that by believing in this world where a transaction, a buyer can start, let's say you want to buy a new phone. Perhaps you got that idea when you went to the mall, but you go home and you do some research. So the transaction keeps zigzagging between the world of bricks and the world of clicks, but it is one single transaction. And you, as the company who is in the business of retail, you need to provide that seamless interface. So the moment I walk into, let's say I want to buy a golf club, the shop should know what all I have done and what stage of the buying cycle that I'm in, and they should greet me by saying, hey, so Sreedhar, you seem to have liked this particular club. Now let me show that to you. So how do they know that? Because they're tracking my history of transactions that I'm doing on the web. So really, all of that is enabled by these systems, enabling systems: big data, IoT, cloud, mobile, and cognitive computing, which is basically artificial intelligence. So this world of enterprise transformation is powered by all of these applications. And companies like Fujitsu, we owe it to our customers to bring best practices and accelerators in these technologies to help you bridge the gap between bricks and clicks. So the other term, again, I'm sure a lot of you in the audience are systems people. We came up with this technology or idea called service-oriented architecture, SOA. And it came out in 2005. And we are still trying to see how we can make money out of it. So in 2018, the S in SOA better turn into a dollar sign. It should be dollar-oriented architecture. And you can create services that are more dollar-oriented and not just services for the sake of architectural elegance. So if you did that, from this world where the services were low volume, very rudimentary, very browser-centric, and you were still helping the business operate 8 to 5, you can create services that are scalable, that can handle the volumes of Amazon, very light, because you don't want the bandwidth to be a big problem. They're ubiquitous, not just browser-centric. They're available on any device. Like, I'll give you an example. Delta Airlines, which is what I fly most of the time, there's nothing that I cannot do on my phone with Delta, the company, that would make me stand in a line or make a phone call. Why? Because they expose their services so nicely that I don't miss talking to a Delta person or walking into a Delta airline office, whether it's baggage related, booking related. So companies are really embracing this, and as a result, the business is always on. So you can bank in the middle of the night, on a weekend, whatever. You don't need to walk into a branch office of a bank. So let me give you some examples. I promised that I would make it very down to earth and give you some best practices. So let me start with an automotive giant that Fujitsu is helping with this digital journey, Ford Motor Company. Ford has decided that the future of Ford does not just depend on this one raw material called steel. They said, my future depends also on some other S word. What is that? Software. So Ford has made a commitment that the future of Ford is going to be steel and software. By all means, they want to make vehicles. They want to compete with the best of the best in the world, including some of the newcomers in Korea and in China, whatever. So they want to make profitable cars. But they feel, if you go back to my long tail slide, that the long tail revenue, all that yellow portion of the revenue, they're leaving it on the table for companies like Uber. So here is Ford Motor Company, and they're saying, Uber is my competition. Why? Because if you look at this instant, right now, this minute, the amount of money Uber is making with its microtransactions, small, $10, $50, $20 transactions, using the steel that Ford and General Motors and everyone is producing the vehicles with, is perhaps greater. That money is greater because it's millions and millions of transactions all over the world than the money that Ford and General Motors are making by selling vehicles right at this moment. So they were smart enough to say, hey, I need to get a piece of that action. So they're working with Fujitsu to create transportation as a service. So when you think of going from place A to B, you would think of Ford and use a Ford application on your phone. It's called Ford Pass. And Ford would solve your transportation needs any which way they can, not just by selling you a vehicle. Case in point, they launched this solution in San Francisco. So where, I don't know how many of you are familiar with the geography of Bay Area, but let's say you're living in Fremont and you want to go to San Francisco and you call this Ford application, an Uber-like Ford vehicle will come home, pick you up, take you to the train system called BART, the rapid train system, because that's the best way to solve your transportation problem. And then at the other end, there's another Ford vehicle, or if it's only a block away, there's a bicycle, all sponsored by Ford. You're dealing with only one company. So these are the kinds of systems that we are developing, and that is the beauty of digital transformation. Another example, I was working on this in 2013, so it's already 5 years. There's a payment processor in Cincinnati, Ohio. Their processing technology is on the mainframe. I'm sure there are a lot of people in this audience who understand mainframe technologies. It is written in assembler. A lot of the people who know assembler, they are retired. You need to beg them and bring them to the office to look into the code if something has gone wrong. Now, they use the technology to help retailers with payment handling. So you run a wire all the way to each point of sale system through gateways, which is connected to this big mainframe in Cincinnati. So that is the same problem with the curve that I showed. They're doing business with big companies. But what happens when you're in a taxi and the guy has an iPhone and a little dongle that sits on the iPhone from Square? This company cannot make money out of the transaction. These are small transactions because their system is mainframe based and you cannot connect the mainframe to this iPhone payment point of sale system. So we help them to create a bunch of services, microservices, so that they can do business with, how many of you know Fandango? It's an app for buying movie tickets. So when the movie Avengers came, in one weekend it made 120 million. And this company, because now they're able to let you buy movie tickets with their payment technology, they got a piece of that action, 2-3%. They're now helping companies like OpenTable, apps like OpenTable, to reserve for dinners. Same thing with Groupon. So suddenly, this mainframe technology now is everywhere, and they're able to make money. That is another great example of digital transformation. And the last one is a retailer that I worked with, where we created a distributed order management system to help them expose their inventory to the entire world versus selling only to a bunch of people in Florida. So these are all live examples of how digital transformation makes a lot of common sense, especially if you want to grow the business. But the way to do that is by creating service-oriented technology that is more focused on dollars and growth and reaching the customer, knowing the customer, than anything about architectural elegance. Here is some more detail on the Ford example, where we have taken 4,000 of their applications and we are transforming them into a new technology so that the systems are more agile and more exposable. Here is another example for a bank. The bank decided that they are becoming very irrelevant for millennials. Millennials don't want to go to this bank because they look, oh, that's my dad's bank. So we are helping this bank to be a mobile bank by transforming all their applications in an initiative that they named Gear Up. It stands for Growth in Earnings and Revenue. And suddenly this bank, which is a 100-plus-year-old bank, it's also in Mexico, America. So they are now trying to be a bank that is very relevant to millennials. In fact, a lot of new banks that are going digital, they refuse to even use the word bank. They want to be your lifestyle partner because they know so much about you. They know when did you get a job, what you're making, what car you bought, what mortgage you have. So why can't they be your consultants so that you can optimize on your spending and your wealth management and all those things? So that is really the level of transformation that is happening in banks, in retails, in automotive companies, you name it. Apps have to be highly industrialized. What we mean by that is don't create the art form of software development. Those days are gone. So don't create applications that are an art form. Everything has to be industrialized, high performance, and you can do that by using SaaS, software as a service, by using integration platforms, and by creating platform as a service-based applications. There's a company called Pivotal that Fujitsu works very strongly with, where the software that you develop is using a platform which gives you that agility and the speed, so you're not spending a lot of time installing DB2 or SQL Server or Oracle. Everything comes prepackaged, and you think of a business problem, you start implementing it. So when you did all of this, the world of digital transformation would look something like this. And you see a lot of parallels between this and Mr. Gomez's presentation. Whatever are our personal preferences about social networking, I may not want to be on Facebook. I might want to have limited presence on LinkedIn. For a business, you can't afford to be an antisocial entity. You have to be as social as you can be. So the fact that a company like Ford would need to be on all of these and running applications here and having a gateway in the middle and then going back into their back-end systems, and there are services running all over, and the beauty of all of this is you're making it consumable anytime, anywhere, on any device. In fact, I should have put a car here because now cars have become another hub for consuming applications. So that is how this world of digitalized enterprise is going to work at runtime with all these bubbles that you see that are services that are talking to each other and creating a world where you reach out and touch your customers, add value, create engagement, and everyone benefits. So let's talk briefly about some of the other areas that drive digitalization. IoT, for example. So we are working with a Chinese manufacturer where it's all about our IoT solutions. So we have products like Edgeware. We have products that that take all the streaming data called Globe Ranger, and we bring it all together into a consolidated dashboard towards preventive maintenance, towards employee safety, and towards overall productivity. So in a manufacturing situation, it is said that if a plant is down for 1 minute, it costs around $22,000. So using IoT and using our dashboard technologies and giving preventive maintenance and employee safety and productivity, we are able to achieve 27% productivity improvements for this Chinese device maker called Inessa. Now, here is another buzzword that we need to kind of break down and understand and go beyond the hype: deep learning. So deep learning has been around since 2010. And it is the area of artificial intelligence that behaves more and more, or tries to behave more and more like how human brain works. So it is the evolution of artificial intelligence going back to 1950s, initially, which was all rule-based. Then it became machine learning, which is more algorithm-based, statistics-based, and driven by a lot of big data. So you're helping the machine learn from patterns, to deep learning, where you're creating what are called neural networks, and it's layers and layers of information that you're feeding to the computer for it to behave as close to human brain as possible. So much so that in certain routine tasks, deep learning behaves better than us when it comes to handwriting recognition. 96% accurate when it is done by a machine. Facial recognition. autonomous driving. So it actually knows better than human can. Let's say it's a foggy morning and there's a stop sign and our vision is impaired by fog and everything, but the cars have infrared and everything. It knows that's a stop sign and the car should stop, and it is all driven by deep learning. So Fujitsu is actively working on all of these technologies for autonomous driving, facial recognition, handwriting recognition using deep learning. So much so that you all know about GPUs, right? The processors that NVIDIA and others make to improve speed of games and iPhones and everything. Fujitsu is working on a proprietary chip called DLU, Deep Learning Unit, which will be part of computers to speed up deep learning. And it has other great benefits. Our theme is human-centric innovation. So for cancer treatment, tumor recognition, way better than a surgeon can perform. We are also creating, using deep learning, industry-specific frameworks for supply chain, financial services. For financial services, fraud detection and technologies like blockchain come into that as well. Social networks, because a company should know what kind of reactions it is getting and what kind of threats it should handle. Biology, we talked about it, drug discovery, and of course, traffic patterns. So all of this is great, but if there is one thing that a CIO is very worried about these days, it is security. So Fujitsu is very committed, and we have our experts outside. You can meet them. Our entire cybersecurity team is here to make sure that we are delivering all of this, all the goodness of AI, IoT, big data, and cloud with the wrapper of tight security. So we have offerings such as Palm Secure, which is being used almost across all industries. We have event analysis and sense and respond detection, CM technology as we call it. We have an offering called Samurai. So we are very committed to make sure that you are delivering digital transformations in a highly secure manner. Case in point is Knox Hydro. They use around 2,000 of our Palm Secure devices in addition to our CM technology to ward off threats, because these days utility companies are a big target for cyber attacks. In the last 1 year, as a percentage rise in those attacks, it has gone up around 530%. So it's a major security threat, and we are helping companies like Knox Hydro with our cybersecurity solutions. So just to conclude, I have only 1 more minute. We really want to focus on outcomes. We want to work with our customers to produce outcomes that define digital transformation. And that should be the spirit of undertaking these projects. And it is improved decision making, it is increased visibility and transparency so that we can act faster. It's better customer insights, going back to that theme of know your customer. It's better protection against security threats, and it's a lot of predictive power to know where the business is going and to respond accordingly. Always make the best decision, X-ray vision of everything in your organization, read your customer minds, immunity against risks and threats, and ability to look into the future. So thank you very much, and we'll have our partners come on over after this.
Thank you very much, Sreedhar. Very interesting information.